I wish I had longer hands, longer arms. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, my friends. God's blessings upon you. Let's praise the Lord together, my friends. We have all awakened in God's shelter. Now we've come to praise His name together. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good
My friends.
my friends.
Sing Hosanna.
Hosanna.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Allow a Yaba in the sanctuary of our Lord's protection and the stronghold of our Lord's defense. With His love, our spirits are illumined as we glorify His name. Our hearts are blessed. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, my friend.
My friend.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning,
Good morning.
my friends. Good morning. Good morning. I don't know what happened on that last chord. I was looking for the string and my finger didn't hit the right string. So my apologies, people, if you heard that. And I know you did. I think this would be a good time to start with a prayer. Well, first of all, I think maybe, I always like to say good morning to everyone. So good morning, Kambiz, and good morning, Hushang. Hushang's in twice.
I see
You notice that? He's in twice in the Zoom, yeah. And good morning, Jiva, and good morning, Mike. And how's it going, Andy? And still thinking about the bad chord. If it was in the middle, it wouldn't be so bad. But at the end. Anyway,
And
Good-
you know, if you hadn't said anything about it, no one would know.
we always say that. I
Good
never.
morning to everyone. Alapa.
Morning, Jiva.
Good morning. Good morning. And good morning, everyone out there in our Facebook feed. Good morning, our Facebook streams. Whether you're here in the time that we're actually having our devotion right now, or whether you just happen to choose to consume, partake of this devotion at a later date, we're always glad if you, that you, hopefully you get something out of it. It edifies you, strengthens you, and Just gives you something positive to do for a while. Keeps them off the streets.
Sure.
Okay. How you doing, Daryl?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm still a little bummed out. Nini's not here, and we talk every day. We talk in the morning. We talk in the evening, and a lot of times she's driving to the next event or whatever. But she's doing okay. And
Good. Glad to
yeah.
hear that.
So let's go ahead and start with a prayer.
Good morning, Adam.
Oh, Adam's here. Good morning,
Yes.
Adam. Yeah. I beseech thee, O my God, by all the transcendent glory of thy name, to clothe thy loved ones in the robe of justice, and to illumine their beings with the light of trustworthiness. Thou art the one that hath power to do as he pleaseth, and who holdeth within his grasp the reins of all things, visible and invisible. And this is a prayer, again, by Baha'u'llah. So as you know, if you've been joining us before, we've been studying the book, One Common Faith. One Common Faith. And we've had made a whole lot of discoveries. Good morning, Farah. Good morning, Alex. And we've
And
made quite a
Maria.
few discoveries, some interesting things. Again, for anyone who doesn't know, this is actually just a bound version of a letter that was written in 2005, sent out from the Universal House of Justice to various leaders around the globe, uh, uh, addressing some of the issues at that time, which still are with us today. And everything
Absolutely.
we read here is still very, very, very relevant. And we talked about or have read about some of the reasons that, for whatever reason, religion for many people ain't the big thing it used to be.
Exactly.
Okay, and why? And some of the things that have caused that problem, some because of world conditions, some because of religious leaders themselves, and some because of people taking a variety of views of exactly what religion is. But this letter tells us, again, based on the writings of the Baha'i faith, that religion has some very specific reasons for being. Those reasons have not gone away, and that if religion fails to do what it's supposed to do, it is not because of the word that was sent to a prophet by God. It is because of what has happened to that word and the way man has reacted and failed to apply it, or failed to put it aside, certain parts of it, at times when they were supposed to.
Or to distort it.
Yeah, yes, often distorting it. Very, very true. So anytime it's not serving the needs of mankind, which is what it's supposed to do, it's kind of on us, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's
it
on
really
us.
is.
So we're going to go ahead and continue. Last week, we got to a part that I really, really, really wanted to read. Of course, it was a continuation, or I didn't say it. We have to point out, for anyone who has the book, we're beginning on page 37 in the very last paragraph on page 37. And I'll admit that is a good place to start, even though I was anxious to get into it last week. So, Daryl, if you would please.
Of course. The issue is not the past, but the implications for the present. Problems arise where followers of one of the world's faiths prove unable to distinguish between its eternal and transitory features.
Whoa,
And
whoa, 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 whoa. I know you're not even finished with the second sentence, but hang on here. And you know where I'm going already. We already discussed this, but you know where I'm going. What's this deal about eternal and transitory features of religion? Isn't it all eternal?
So you say.
I want an
But
answer.
no, there are. Yes, it is eternal, but it's also transitory. And the transitory part comes in the form of a new manifestation.
Okay.
So we're going from one stage to the next level of development, and the next level of, and it's not just religious development, it's human development, it's spiritual development.
So are you, I'll say, implying that there are some things in religious writings that aren't meant to be continually applied in solving or dealing with the everyday issues and problems that mankind confronts. Does some of it live out its usefulness, I guess?
Well, one of the things that this makes very clear is that the message is dependent upon the exigencies of that time and that day. So if the exigencies of any time changes, then the message is for that day.
Ah,
And as a population, we get locked up in tradition, we get locked up in folklore, we get locked up in a lot of different things that sometimes do not allow us to immediately accept the message, because in our minds at least, it is something that is contrary to something that we have either learned or acquired in the past.
okay. You're making me think of a friend of mine who I still consider a friend, but this is from years ago. This man is very, very religious, happens to be from the Christian tradition, wanted to write his own book, sort of a book on, I'll say guidance and so forth, on using the Bible to deal with your daily issues. Okay. Not a bad thing for those people who,
Not at all.
okay. But he wanted to get into dietary issues. Dietary issues. And apparently, there is some place in the Old Testament that tells people not to eat lizards.
Mhm.
This was going in the book as something for current guidance. And I kind of felt like, I know your intentions are good, but do you think people really need this? Do they need to be told this? If you got other choices, if you have no other choices, maybe, but if you've got other choices, don't eat lizards. I know that's far off where we should be, but it just came to mind, and I think my transitory ADHD kicked in. So anyway, let's just
All right.
continue.
The issue is not the past, but the implications for the present. Problems arise where followers of one of the world's faiths prove unable to distinguish between eternal and transitory features, and attempt to impose on society rules of behavior that have long since accomplished their purpose. So this is, we're trying to get beyond ourselves, so to speak.
Yeah.
The principle is fundamental to an understanding of religion's social role. The remedy the world needeth in its present day afflictions can never be the same as that which a subsequent age may require. There's the answer. Baha'u'llah points out, be anxiously concerned with the needs of the age ye live in, and center your deliberations on its exigencies and requirements.
Daryl, I have a special request.
Yes, sir.
Read again from The Principle is Fundamental, please.
From the principle is fundamental. So I have to go back.
Because I got to tell you, I don't know about you, but when I first started reading the writings of Baha'u'llah, or let me put it this way, before I started reading the writings, I had never once considered any other possibility that I had never once considered this possibility, that certain guidance is not meant to be eternal. It is meant for the conditions and needs of the time of that revelation.
Absolutely.
And that it's sort of like, would you continue to try to solve a problem that no longer exists? Would you apply a remedy to a problem that no longer exists? Well, obviously, when you put it in those terms, the answer is no. And yet, you kind of try to keep doing that.
Exactly.
So, yeah. So could you please read that again?
The principle is fundamental to an understanding of religion's social role. The remedy the world needeth in its present day afflictions can never be the same as that which a subsequent age may require. Baha'u'llah points out, be anxiously concerned with the needs of the age ye live in, and center your deliberations on its exigencies and requirements.
That word exigencies threw me, even though I've heard it many times. And contextually speaking, knew what it meant, but I felt the need, at least for my own purposes, to look it up and just be sure, even though I've read it for years. I kind of knew. And yeah, it does mean the needs and demands, needs and demands, basically.
Of the current age.
So be anxiously concerned with the needs of the age you live in. It's not saying don't know history, don't bother with
Right.
history, but don't think that the things that people applied millennia ago in some cases, that everything that they did, we shouldn't be looking at it so much as if it were, whether it was right or wrong. They were responding to the needs of the day.
Today.
And here we are being told to be anxiously concerned with the needs of the age ye live in, and center your deliberations. In other words, whatever you're doing, center it on exigencies, its needs and demands, and requirements. So we really need to be concerned about the time that we live in.
Absolutely. The exigencies of the new age of human experience to which Baha'u'llah summoned the political and religious rulers of the 19th century world now have been largely adopted, at least as ideals, but their successors by progressive minds, by their successors and progressive. Let me back up. The exigencies of the new age of human experience to which Baha'u'llah summoned the political and religious rulers of the 19th century world have now been largely adopted as at least as ideals by their successors and by progressive minds everywhere. By the time the 20th century had drawn to a close, principles that had only short decades earlier had been patronized as visionary and hopelessly unrealistic had become central to global discourse. Buttressed or held up by the findings of scientific research and the conclusions of influential commissions, often lavishly funded, they direct the work of powerful agencies at international, national, and local levels. A vast body of scholarly literature in many languages is devoted to exploring practical means for their implementation, and those programs can count on media attention on 5 continents.
Wow.
So this says that we've gone far beyond, what it took to send the message from here to there. We're far beyond that, years ago or ages ago.
Mm-hmm.
Most of these principles are, alas, also widely flouted, not only among recognized enemies of social peace, but in circles professedly committed to them. What is lacking is not convincing testimony as to their relevance, but the power of moral conviction that can implement them, a power whose only demonstrably reliable source throughout history has been religious faith. As late as the inception of Baha'u'llah's own mission, religious authorities still exercised a significant degree of social influence. When the Christian world was moved to break with millennia of unquestioning conviction and address at last the evil of slavery, it was to biblical ideas that the early British reformers sought to appeal. I'm going to go back. When the Christian world was moved to break with millennia of questioning conviction and address at last the evil of slavery, it was to biblical ideas that the early British reformers sought to appeal. So they were trying to justify slavery through their own religious ideas. Subsequently, in the defining address he gave regarding the central role played by the issue in the great conflict in America, the President of the United States warned that if every drop of blood drawn with the lash shall be paid by another drawn with the sword, as was said 3,000 years ago, so it must be said, the judgments of the Lord are true and righteous altogether. That era, however, was swiftly drawing to a close. In the upheavals that followed the Second World War, even so influential a figure as Mohandas Gandhi proved unable to mobilize the spiritual power of Hinduism in support of his efforts to extinguish sectarian violence on the Indian subcontinent. Nor were the leaders of the Islamic community any more effective in this respect. As prefigured in the Quran's metaphorical vision of the day on that we roll up the heavens like a scroll, the once unchallengeable authority of the traditional religions had ceased to direct humanity's social relations. It is in this context that one begins to appreciate Baha'u'llah's choice of imagery about the will of God for a new age. Think not that we have revealed unto you a mere code of laws. Nay, rather we have unsealed the choice wine with the fingers of might and power.
Yes.
Through this revelation, the principles required for the collective upcoming age of the human race have been invested with the one power capable of penetrating to the roots of human motivation and of altering behavior. For those who have recognized him, equality of men and women is not a sociological postulate, but revealed truth about human nature.
I'm going to stop you there, Daryl, because I just want to give people a little heads up. What he's about to read is a list of social issues that have existed and are addressed in the writings of Baha'u'llah. And yet, because we view them as social issues, many people fail to see how applying spiritual principles to the solving of these social problems is the way to solve the problem.
Right.
By applying spiritual principles. So I just want to give people, I don't know, maybe hopefully you've been listening the whole time, but perk your ears up a little bit more right now. And Daryl is going to read a whole list of things that you might take for granted, maybe you don't, and yet here are some things that in the writings of Baha'u'llah, these problems are addressed. And it just speaks to, again, concerning yourself with the needs and exigencies of the day, and how if we apply spiritual solutions to social issues, we can actually solve those problems. So, Daryl.
For those who have recognized him, and him capitalized here, meaning Baha'u'llah, equality of men and women is not a sociological postulate, but revealed truth about human nature with implications for every aspect of human relations. The same is true of his teaching of the principle of racial oneness, universal education, freedom of thought, the protection of human rights, recognition of the earth's vast resources as a trust for the whole of mankind, society's responsibility for the well-being of its citizenry, the promotion of scientific research, even so practical a principle as an international auxiliary language that will advance integration of the world's peoples. For all who respond to Baha'u'llah's revelation, these and similar precepts carry the same compelling authority as do the injunctions of Scripture against idolatry, theft, and false witness.
You waiting for me to stop you?
Well, I think we should talk about the list. The same
I think you're right.
And repeat it. The same is true of his teaching of the principle of racial oneness.
Oh, wait a minute, hang on. You didn't start at the beginning, man.
Well,
that thing, equality of men and women, is
okay. The equality. Okay. I already said it twice, but we'll do it.
I want you to say
we'll do it a third time. Okay. For those who have recognized him, equality of men and women is not a sociological postulate, but revealed truth about human nature with implications for every aspect of human relations. And that's powerful words. With
Yes.
implications for every aspect of human relations.
Yeah.
The same is true of his teaching of the principle of racial oneness, universal education, freedom of thought, the protection of human rights, recognition of the earth's vast resources as a trust for the whole of mankind, society's responsibility for the well being of its citizenry, the promotion of scientific research, even so practical a principle as international auxiliary language that will advance the integration of the world's people. For all who respond to Baha'u'llah's revelation, these and similar precepts carry the same compelling authority as do the injunctions of Scripture against idolatry, theft, and false witness.
Imagine, I must tell you, imagine if it were in the language that so many people relate to the Bible. Thou shalt view all men and women as equal. Thou shalt establish universal education for all people. Thou shalt support freedom of thought. Thou, and on and on and on and on. Maybe then they'll understand what a huge deal it is to look at these things that we look at as social problems of today and see them as no. Today's revelation addresses these problems.
Right.
About how Allah addresses them. And so they are social problems, but even the whole thing about thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal, that was dealing with a social problem too.
That's right.
So you put your book down. I guess it's time for a song now. I got the drum machine.
He mentioned choice wine, so
yeah,
let's do a little choice wine. Excuse me.
Taraza, Tazalia, Ishrika, Kalimati, Bedosie, Kalimati, Bedosie, Bisharat, Taraza, Tazalia, Ishrika, Kalimati, Bedosie, Kalimati, Bedosie, glad tidings, ornaments, effulgences and splendors, holy words of paradise, holy words of paradise, words revealed by my Lord, gift of life through my Lord, hidden words now revealed, choice wine now unsealed by my Lord, now unsealed by my Lord, now unsealed by my Lord, now unsealed by my Lord. In the writings of Baha'u'llah, it is written, the seal of the choice wine of his revelation hath in this day, and in his name the self-sufficing been broken. Its grace is being poured out upon men. Fill thy cup and drink in his name, the most holy, the all-praised. Bisharat, Tarazat, Tashaliyat, Ishrikat, Kalimati Berdasiye, Kalimati Berdasiye, words revealed by my Lord, Word of God through my Lord, hidden words now revealed, choice wine now unsealed by my Lord, 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 now unsealed by my Lord. Always like what you do on that. And somewhere out there,
I wish I knew what I was doing.
a woman by the name of Graciela is saying, more flute music.
All right.
I wish I could remember where we were. I do not.
At the bottom of page 40.
Oh,
Integral.
okay. Oh, yeah.
Why don't you read?
I'm going to start with a sentence prior to that. I'm going to
Okay.
repeat that. Through spiritual empowerment brought by Baha'u'llah's revelation, the divine standards can be appreciated not as isolated principles and laws, but as facets of a single, all-embracing vision of humanity's future. Revolutionary in purpose, intoxicating in the possibilities it opens. Integral to these teachings are principles that address the administration of humanity's collective affairs. A widely quoted passage in Baha'u'llah's tablet to Queen Victoria expresses emphatic praise of the principle of democratic and constitutional government, but is also an admonition about the context of global responsibility in which that principle must operate if it is to realize its purpose in this age. I'm going to read that again. I think I broke it up a little badly. A widely quoted passage in Baha'u'llah's tablet to Queen Victoria expresses emphatic praise of the principle of democratic and constitutional government, but is also an admonition about the context of global responsibility in which that principle must operate if it is to realize its purpose in this age. And this is Baha'u'llah's quote. O ye, the elected representatives of the people in every land, take ye counsel together, and let your concern be only for that which profiteth mankind and bettereth the condition thereof, if ye be of them that scan heedfully. Regard the world as the human body, which, though at its creation whole and perfect, hath been afflicted, though through various causes, which with grave disorders and maladies. I will take my glasses off and read that again. Regard the world as the human body, which, though at its creation whole and perfect, hath been afflicted through various causes with grave disorders and maladies. Not for one day did it gain ease. Nay, its sickness waxed more severe as it fell under the treatment of ignorant physicians who gave full rein to their personal desires and have erred grievously.
I think I'm going to stop you this time. Okay.
Well, that's not how this works, Daryl.
Because what he's saying here is so important. It's saying that if we treat the ills of the world as we do maladies of the body, then we have been subject to these the treatment of ignorant physicians.
Yes.
Ignorant physicians. An ignorant physician is not likely to cure any ill.
And he goes a little, yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead.
And we know that, and at our core, I think we know that. We don't always adhere to that. We don't always recognize it, or if we do recognize it, it's not always that we recognize it in time enough for the malady, whatever it is, to get any better.
He also points out what their real priorities are. He says, what is it? Not for one day did it gain ease, say its sickness waxed more severe as it fell under the treatment of ignorant physicians who gave full rein to their personal desires and have erred grievously. And if at one time, through the care of an able physician, a member of that body was healed, the rest remained afflicted as before. Unquote. In other passages, Baha'u'llah spells out some of the practical implications. The governments of the world are called upon to convene an international consultative body as the foundation, in the words of the Guardian, of a world federal system, empowered to safeguard the autonomy and territory of its state members, resolve national and regional disputes, and coordinate programs of global development for the good of the entire human race.
And I really think that was the expectation of the United Nations.
Yes, and the League of Nations before that, yes. Yeah. Significantly, Baha'u'llah attributes to this system, once established, the right to suppress by force acts of aggression by one state against another. Addressing the rulers of his day, he asserts the clear and moral authority of such action. This is a quote from Baha'u'llah. Should any one among you take up arms against another, rise ye all against him, for this is naught but manifest justice. Unquote. But this isn't in the news today, is it? Obviously, I'm being sarcastic. Yes, it certainly is. So once again, I mean, we've gone far beyond humanity as far as humanity is concerned. We've gone far beyond the needs of just, a spiritual guidance for personal behavior. We've gone far beyond that.
Absolutely.
That was the start many, many millennia ago, because that what was needed. But now, along certainly with guidance for personal behavior, there's also guidance for societies, guidance on what our leaders should be doing. and spiritual solutions to today's problems. And that's why we're reading this, to show
Absolutely.
that there's still practical application for spiritual guidance that is religiously based.
Absolutely.
But once again, first of all, you have to be open to it, and secondly, secondly, you have to be open to it. So obviously, it is time for us to stop now, and we've reached that point where we always like to have anyone who would choose to share a personal prayer or reading of your choosing, or even a song of your choosing. This is that time. And as always, we always like to start with our Camby's moment, followed by our Andy Murphy moment. So Camby's, do you have something to share with us today?
Sure.
I keep thinking one day he's going to say, "Nah, not today. I don't feel up to it." But he always is right there with me. Please, Camby's.
Sure.
Is he muted? We can't hear you, Camby's.
Camby's, you're muted. I think you're
Muted.
muted. Yeah.
I'm not muted
No, he's
here.
not. But for a while there,
Okay.
we couldn't hear you for a while. Sorry
Oh.
about
Okay, so I make it louder. How about now?
Good.
Okay. O Son of Being, thou art my lamp, and my light is in thee. Get thou from it thy radiance, and seek none other than me. For I have created thee rich, and have bountifully shed my favor upon thee. That's a hidden word from Baha'u'llah.
it. Thank you, Camby's. Thank you. Andy, do you have something to share with us today?
Yes, indeed.
Please.
But before I do, I just want to make sure you can hear something. Were you able to hear what I just played?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So now this will work. Here are some hidden words. O Son of Spirit, with the joyful tidings of light, I hail thee, rejoice, to the court of holiness, I summon thee. Abide therein, that thou mayst live in peace forevermore. O Son of Being, make mention of me on my earth, that in my heaven I may remember thee. Thus shall mine eyes and thine be solaced. O Son of Man, wert thou to speed through the immensity of space, and traverse the expanse of heaven, yet thou would find no rest, save in submission to our command,
Thank you so much, Andy.
You're welcome.
Is there anyone else who would like to share a prayer or reading or song?
Spiritual assemblies are shining lamps and heavenly gardens, from which the fragrances of holiness are diffused over all regions, and the lights of knowledge are shed abroad over all created things. From them the spirit of life streameth in every direction. They indeed are the potent sources of the progress of man at all times and under all conditions. Abdul Baha.
Thank you so much, Farah. Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to share?
Okay.
Well, then, let me readjust our Facebook streaming camera.
While he's doing that, I'd like to say that to everyone, or remind everyone that this program that we put on every week is a collaborative effort from several communities, but primarily through the auspices of the Clearwater Bahá'í Center. And if you would like more information about the Baha'i faith or would like some definitive reference, you can always go to www.baha'is.us or www.baha'is.org or www.baha'iteachings.org. Or if you happen to be in the Tampa Bay area and would like more information, you can always go to the Clearwater Bahá'í website at www.clearwaterbaha'is.org.
Yes. And, I used to say this on a regular basis, but now I often forget to say that I usually forget to say, I used to do it every Sunday. But we need to point out that we aren't the only, program or devotion or whatever you want to call it that is hosted by the Clearwater Bahá'í website, by the Clearwater Bahá'ís. Every Sunday following this devotion, there is another program. It's often, for people who are aware of it, it's often just called the adult class because it is primarily for adults. But they have a variety of speakers. I want to say, I don't know if managed is the word, but I know that Gilbert, who often joins us almost every Sunday for this devotion, is he's a part of that effort. He often is. Gilbert is an extremely knowledgeable Baha'i, I'll just put it that way, extremely knowledgeable, and he often teaches. But they also have other guest speakers who sometimes they have a series of classes and so forth on particular subjects. My way of often pointing it out is its guidance in applying spirituality in very practical ways in our everyday lives, which is supposed to be practical. I mean, for the most part, yeah. And it's unfortunate that so many people lose sight of the
Excuse me,
practicality.
Tony.
Yes.
This gentleman here asking if he can say prayer.
Oh, Jiva.
Yes, please.
Yes, please. Please do.
Thank you. I'm going to say a healing prayer. One of Baha'i Malaysia. He's in hospital.
Oh,
okay.
Please.
Thank you. உந்தன் நாமமே என்னை குணப்படுத்தும் உம்மை நினைத்தாலே எனக்கு சிகிச்சை முத அருகாமையே எனது நம்பிக்கை நின்றதன் பால் அன்பே என் தோல் என் மீது உள்ள உமது இரக்கமே இம்சையிலும் மறுமையிலும் எனக்கு சிகிச்சையும் உதவியுமாகும் மெய்யாகவே எல்லாம் அறிந்தவரும் சர்வஞானியும் குடைவல்லதும் நீரே ஆவது. Abdul Baha. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jiva.
And thank you, Jiva. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Jiva, but I believe he's in Canada. I know he is often a part of a devotion that's hosted by Lau in Arizona on Zoom. And I think, Jiva, am I wrong about that? Are you in Canada?
Yes, 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 I do. Yes,
I thought so. I thought so. It's so nice of you to join us.
thank you.
Yes, and thank you. And
Well, I think we've reached that stage where it's time for me to remind you, and this is just a reminder, that if you have any expectations of your world improving, there's one easy, simple, and free thing that you can do to make sure that that happens. And it's so simple that you're just not going to believe it. And those of you who are here every Sunday are kind of used to me saying, please just share the love.
O people of justice, be as brilliant as the light, and as splendid as the fire that blazed in the burning bush. The brightness of the fire of your love will no doubt fuse and unify the contending peoples and kindreds of the earth, whilst the fierceness of the flame of enmity and hatred cannot but result in strife and ruin. We beseech God that he may shield his creatures from the evil designs of his enemies. He verily hath power over all things. Let your vision be world embracing. Let your vision be world embracing. Let your vision be world embracing. Oh, oh. Be world embracing. Let your vision be world embracing. Let your vision be world embracing. Watch over yourselves, for the evil one is lying in wait, ready to entrap you. Gird yourselves against his wicked devices, and led by the light of the name of the all-seeing God, make your escape from the darkness that surroundeth you. Let your vision be world-embracing, rather than confined to your own self. These are the words of Baha'u'llah. Be world embracing. Let your vision be world embracing. Let your vision be world embracing.